Welcome to Malv Words. Today we will be having our first lesson for engineering economy, which is the introduction to basic economic principles. So we have here economics and engineering economy. So in the previous years, we have already learned about economics. And now for this course, we will be talking about another branch of economics, which is engineering economy. So how do they differ? Let us find out. So economics. It is defined as the study of allocation of scarce resources among unlimited ends or wants. So it is a body of knowledge that deals with people's resources and assets. It studies how people and nations perform economic activities such as buying, selling, producing, and consuming goods and services in a world with limited resources. So as humans, our wants are never ending. And to satisfy all these wants, we need unlimited supply of productive resources which could provide necessary goods and services to the community. But in this world, nothing is unlimited. The resources we have are scarce. All the water and the minerals that we have are limited in supply and obtained at a cost. This means that resources are scarce in relation to its needs. Therefore, scarce resources should be wisely used and efficiently at optimum level. We need to minimize cost while maximizing profit and benefit without compromising the product or service quality. This is where engineering decisions come in. So, engineering decisions involve a number of feasible alternatives or options. These feasible alternatives must be properly evaluated before implementing them. So, if there is no alternative, there is no need of economic study. So in the engineering field, we have to transform the resources of nature for the benefit of human race. Engineers translate idea into reality. However, an idea may be technically excellent, incorporating sound design, latest technology, but if it does not convert into a real product or service at a budget-friendly rate and fit for purposes satisfying needs and requirements of its end users or clients, target groups, beneficiary groups, then it is not something worthwhile to invest in such ventures. So the products and services generated should be used to optimize utilization of various resources so that cost production is not that high. It is affordable to its users and can compete with similar products or services of competitors in the market. Now, with the engineering economy. So it is the branch of economics that applies the economic decision making for engineering systems. So this involves the systematic evaluation of economic merits of proposed solutions to engineering problems. It is the use of principles of economics and practices in the engineering field to maximize benefits while minimizing costs. So in the engineering economy, we can create economically acceptable solutions to engineering problems, demonstrating a positive balance of long-term benefits over long-term costs. So, so why do we need to study engineering economy? As they say, we really need this in this course in engineering field. Well, apart from the fact that this course is included in your board exams, it is required, and the main reason why you're watching this video right now, this course can help you understand better how money in the real world works, as it is a key part in the technical analysis of choosing the best option for a project in terms of the economic aspect. This is very helpful when dealing money issues or simply handling your finances. So this is, when we choose one or two or three or more options, option A and option B, we can never really, at the first glance, decide what to pick just by merely looking at them. We have to analyze, use computations for us to weigh which among these are the most economical choice. We must compare the options on different aspects and criteria because, it can help in understanding better which among the choices have the most valuable service or feature. We study engineering economy because these are the collection of tools and techniques which will be a helping hand in the operations and addressing of issues, especially in businesses and companies, like for the production and design in factories, for analyzing installment plans, for mortgage, from paying your credit cards and stuff like that. Engineering economy will help us in seeking new objectives for engineering applications, for searching underlying factors that limit the success of a venture. This will help us in evaluating potential investment of capital, compare alternatives as a basis for making decisions, starting grounds for future actions. And engineering economy might be a boring term to hear, but there are a lot of techniques you can use in foreseeing the potential or the possible outcome of a project depending on the choices available. You can either use technical analysis like economic analysis, you can use financial analysis, and you can also use intangible analysis. A lot of new learners often ask, what are we going to do or what are we going to expect in engineering economy? Is it much difficult than economics? Well, we have to figure out ourselves because, as learners, we have different capabilities. But one thing is for sure, engineering economy or economics is fun, as they're already familiar words that we know from our economics class. And we also have some new words that we will be encountering in our future sessions. Now let's take a look at some of the terms that might or might not be familiar with. So these are alternatives, expenses, revenues, costs, interest rates, cash flow, market value, lump sum, mortgage, installments, depreciation, payback period, rate of return, efficiency, annuity, inflation, discount, liquidity. So these are just some of the terms. So to our viewers, if I'm gonna ask you, which of these terms seem familiar to you? Comment down. Okay, next. Now, in economic studies, there are two basic types of factors to be considered always. These are the tangible and intangible factors. So for the first factor, the tangible factors are those which can be expressed in terms of monetary value, while intangible factors are those which can be difficult or impossible to express definitely in terms of monetary value. That is why it is often called irreducible factors. So tangible factors meaning can be represented physically. Some examples of these are natural resources, human resources, infrastructures, machineries and equipment, stocks, vehicles, and cash. So these tangible factors are used to produce products and services. While intangible factors, we have here software, trademark, logo, copyright, patent, brand value, and license. So in engineering economy, we have what we call market. So since market is already a common knowledge, like we already know what is a market, right? So these this is where we buy our goods, and we buy our clothes, our food for survival, for purchasing services, and the like. So by definition, let us review. These are the places where sellers and buyers come together and in which things are bought and sold. So market in the modern industrial system, however, is not a place. It has expanded to the whole geographical area in which sellers compete for customers. So let us have an example of a market. So look at this picture shown. We can see a man parking his cart filled with different products right in front of the girl. So these items will then be paid by the man with his money. He will give it to the girl, and the girl receives the payment. The girl will also place the items in a bag, and after give it to the man the items he paid for. So this act of exchange by the man and girl, or the buyer, which is here the man, and the seller, the girl right in front of the man. So this process can also be called as market. Because market, can also be a process, a means by which the exchange of goods and services takes place as a result of buyers and sellers being in contact with one another, either directly or through mediating agents or institutions. Like we can also say online shopping. The buyers and sellers are not physically interacting or not interacting personally. They communicate through online applications such as Amazon. Like when buyers want to purchase something, they just add to cart whatever they like, and the seller responds to whatever they order, and items will be shipped immediately. And after, sellers, when delivering it to the address stated by the buyer, they will give it to them. And now buyers will have to pay. Like for example, they will use cash on delivery as a modality of payment, or they can either pay immediately after adding to cart or checking out through the online application. So that is what we call market as a process. Now that we have reviewed about what a market is, let us now focus on the three kinds of markets. Now note that it is important to know these types of market, as this will help you a lot in understanding better how cash flow works. We'll later find out how these systems work as we go through the topics one by one. So for the first type, we have the local market. So what is a local market? A local market accounts for the people or the customers who will buy the products and services in the vicinity of where they are produced. A local market is most often utilized by small neighborhood businesses to attract people in the surrounding area. Say for example, at the dry and wet market, we usually find some products like rice that have been harvested from local rice fields or have been delivered from the nearby rice mills. We can also find some locally grown apples freshly harvested, or freshly picked vegetables just this morning. You see, from where you're residing right now, the store that is the most accessible and convenient to you to buy some stuff, that is what you call local market. So in terms of prices, the products you buy here are much cheaper because sellers have sourced these out also at a cheaper rate from the local farmers or directly from the producers. As what you can see in this picture on top, this situation here is what you usually see, especially in the province or semi-rural areas. You can buy here um, livestock, you can buy pigs, you can buy meat, you can buy fruits, you can buy squid or fish, you can buy any product that have been locally produced. So that is what you call local market. Most of the stuff here in the local market are food or just for survival. Most of these are necessities. So the second type is the national market. So this market is the type of market which have their products sold all over the country. So we can see here tons of container vans being shipped. So for example, for national market, you have your favorite author. She or he released a new book, a locally known author in your country. Now, she or he has stated or announced that he will be releasing a new book that will be nationally sold through bookstores and other department stores in your country only. So that is what you call national market, because from where states you're coming from or from what city are you from, that is available all over your country only at the national level. Now for the third type, which has a greater coverage or greater range, greater scope, it is called the global market. So it is the exchange of products and services between countries. So when we say global market, it is self-explanatory that products and items will be sold at the global level, meaning different countries to different countries. For example, a famous group, an idol group, which is famous only in South Korea. No one has ever known that group internationally yet, but when they released a music video through an international TV shows or music shows, they have reached billions of viewers, millions of audiences, millions of fans all over the globe, all over the world. So their popularity has really skyrocketed, and now their sales has gone like crazy because their products can now be sold at different stores internationally. They can be sold in India, can be sold in China, can be sold in the Philippines, can be sold in Greece, can be sold in Canada, can be sold in Puerto Rico, in Spain. So there are really a lot of countries. Now, in the global level, many countries are involved. Many countries can be can access can have that access to that market, because when a product or service will be entering at an internationally known platform or purchasing site, then this inevitably growing at a global level. As we all know from the concept of economics, I assume you already had it in your previous or yet in middle school years, there are quantities that we must consider. These are what we call supply and demand, wherein supply is the quantity of a certain commodity offered for sale or at a certain price at a given place and time, while demand is the quantity of a certain commodity that is bought at a certain price at a given place and time. Now, in engineering economy, we will be reviewing the laws regarding the demand and supply and their relationship with each other and how they affect each other. So, the first one is the law of demand. So, the law of demand states that the demand for a commodity varies inversely as the price of the commodity rises, though not proportionately. So, look at that figure on the top. Notice how the two curves progress. It can be noted that the luxuries are in a curve outward, while the other curve for necessities is oriented inward, with the price as the x variable and the demand as the y variable. So necessities and luxuries behave differently on a demand and price perspective. This only means that when the price or the commodity is low, the demand is great. And for more people will be able to afford the price of the commodity, but when the price increases, the demand increases. Meanwhile, for the second one, which is the law of supply, it states that the supply of a commodity varies directly as the price of the commodity, though not proportionately. So we can observe here in the second picture on the right, a graph of the price-supply relationship with the supply as its axis. We can see that as the supply increases, this means that the price is directly proportional to the quantity. So in cases where quantity decreases, we can also expect the price that will also decrease. So for the third one, there is what we call law of supply and demand. So it is from the law of demand and the supply, we now have a law of demand and supply. It's a combination. This is a combination of the laws from these two here. So it states that no sale exists if the seller and buyers do not agree on a common price for the commodity. The price of an item is only determined when the demand has the same amount of the supply, or in common terms, they are equal in value. So if there is a sale occurs, this can be visualized through this picture. You have here the graph for the demand. We have here the graph for the supply, and the point, the common point, intersecting point, is what we call the equilibrium for the demand and supply, where its axis is quantity, and its y-axis is price. So when free competition exists, we can say from this picture, when free competition exists, the price of a product will be that value where supply is equal to the demand. So here is the equilibrium. So in engineering economy, there are two kinds of goods that we must know. We must be aware of. These are the consumer goods and producer goods. So consumer goods are those that are in or consumed or used directly by people, or are things and services which serve to satisfy human needs. So examples of these consumer goods are clothes, shoes, food, houses, medical and dental services. And we can also say barber and beauty salon or pampering services. Meanwhile, producer goods are those which instruments that aid in the production of goods and services that is also for human consumption. So examples of these are generators, tools, ships, buses, airplanes. So these help a lot in companies in making food, making clothes, in cutting grass, cutting hairs, in creating shapes, cutting shapes, in calculating numbers, and the like. Now, we also have in engineering economy what we call price and production. So what is price and production? The price of a good or commodity is defined to be the amount or its equivalent which is given in exchange for it. So in a capitalistic perspective or system, industry is based solely on profit, and profit in turn is based on price. So goods that are in high demand and are scarce command a higher price relative to the cost of production, thus will yield a higher profit. So producers of such goods will naturally exert all available means to increase their yield. So on the other hand, goods that will have little demand command a low price in relation to the cost of the production. So what from the companies, for example, companies of such goods, they will decrease their number of manufactured or production, or perhaps stop their production altogether if the demand will be also low. So there will also be at times price and production will affect each other in such a way that when a product is rare, is such a high demand but rare or scarce or small in numbers, then sellers or companies will assign prices that are much higher than expected. For example, a company sells ring with diamonds and golds with it, and it is a type of ring that is seen rarely. So companies decide these prices because people want to have that product, but in order to gain a profit, in order to gain revenues from their products, these rare items will be priced higher because companies know that people our customers will gonna buy it since it is on high demand. So that is sometimes the technique or the strategy of some companies or sellers when dealing with considering factors that are in price and production relationship. So for next, so in engineering economy, we have to take note of the different principles, which are firstly, principle 1, develop the alternatives. So in this part, we have to define the problem. We need to propose a solution and list down the alternatives. In principle 2, we have to focus on the differences. We have to compare. We have to take note of the differences of the listed alternatives. So when we create alternatives from our identified problems and situations, we have to focus on these differences. We compare them, take note of them, and think about it. So in principle 3, we use a consistent viewpoint. Not only that we focus on the differences, we have to make we have to use such a perspective so that we can clearly see how these alternatives are notable or can offer different features. So it is the prospective outcomes of the alternatives, economic and other, that should be consistently developed from a certain perspective. So it is a point of view that we must use. When in stories, we can say first point of view. Also in engineering economy, we can also use a consistent viewpoint so that we can clearly see how these alternatives give outcomes, so that we will know in the decision making how do these vary. So on the fourth principle, we must use a common unit of measure. So this would be a helping hand in simplifying the analysis of the listed alternatives. So it defines the medium that will be used for the comparison of options. And for this principle, we must know that when defining the common unit of measure, we must really use a medium that would be used for all the alternatives of options we have. We must not first say use centimeters for one alternative, then another would be using kilometers, then for the other one we would be using yards. So that is wrong. We must use a consistent or common unit of measure. For the principle 5, we must consider all relevant criteria. So it is vital in the decision-making part as it considers the outcomes enumerated in the monetary unit and those expressed in some other unit of measurement or made explicit in a descriptive manner. So all the relevant criteria stated in the situation are available in this in our knowledge of the situation. We must use that as a means for comparing. Principle 6, we have to make risk and uncertainty explicit. We must make known of the problems that may arise. We must identify, analyze, compare the potential risk and uncertainties of each alternatives so as we can predict the future outcomes of the alternatives. And for the last principle, principle 7, we must revisit our decisions. So this can be done by making final decision, applying the principles, and the improved decision-making results from all processes to the extent practicable. The initial projected outcomes of the selected alternative should be compared with the actual results. So this can be what we call post-evaluation. Now, we will discuss the engineering economy and the design process. So we have here in engineering economy, we have the engineering economic analysis. And we also have the engineering design process. So these two are very closely related, but they differ a lot in terms of different factors. So how would these two would be different? So in engineering economic analysis, this evaluates the monetary aspects of the products, projects, and processes that engineers design. So this aids in the decision-making process when alternatives are compared. This analysis is useful when resources are scarce or are limited in value. While engineering design process, this is the iterative process to find the best possible solution to the identified problems. So it is a cycle involving the selection of a conceptual or preliminary design alternative, which will then be used to develop the preferred detailed design. Let us now go on how these two are related, or the relationship. So in the engineering economic analysis, we have what we call steps. In the engineering design process, we have called these numbers as activities. So the first step in the economic analysis, we have problem recognition, definition, and evaluation. 2, development of feasible alternatives. 3, development of the outcomes and cash flow for each alternative. 4th, selection of criterion or criteria. 5th, analysis and comparison of the alternatives. 6th, selection of the preferred alternative. 7, performance monitoring and post-evaluation of results. Meanwhile, for the engineering design process, we have activities. For the first one, problem or need definition. 2 and 3, problem need definition, formulation and evaluation. Synthesis of possible solutions, or what we call alternatives. For the fourth one, we have analysis, optimization, and evaluation. For the fifth one, specification of preferred alternative, and 6, communication. So as we can observe, the number 2, the second step in engineering economic analysis, are considered as one activity for the engineering design process. Meanwhile, for the third, fourth, fifth step in the analysis, it is also considered as one in the design process. So these two are almost the same, but as we analyze the two of them, the analysis and the design process are almost the same, but the only difference is that in the engineering design process, there are many shortened steps considered as one activity. And for the last step of the activity, it is not the performance monitoring, it is rather the communication or expressing what we call the results from this engineering design process. So in the next video, we will be learning an in-depth topic or in-depth discussion on how these two can be applied in real life situations, how these two are related in solving economic problems, real life problems, or financial problems. And we will also be witnessing how through our sample problems, how we can optimize in the production and like in the companies and manufacturing products, how these two can be applied and be used. So that is all for today. If you learned something, please give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe to our channel, Mov Learns. So I'll see you in the next one.